Presenter. As the Youth Program Specialist at the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences, Kathryn Rende develops and manages the team programs that focus on science communication. She holds a bachelor's degree in botany and a master's in visual journalism. Before coming to the museum, Kathryn created science-themed multimedia for institutions like the Miami Herald, the National Park Service, and National Geographic magazine. Thank you for joining us today, Kathryn. And with that, I'd like to send it on to you.
Great, thank you so much for the introductions, RJ. Welcome back, anyone who attended webinar part 1, and welcome. It's nice to meet you for the first time, people who are here for the part 2 of the webinar. So the first part of this webinar is digital engagement for virtual audiences, focused on how you can utilize video content to further reach audiences during your Teen Science Cafe. We talked about using Facebook Live, live stream, and other broadcast softwares to kind of send out what's happening in the cafe out to the digital world. This webinar, we're going to focus on what to do with that content once it's done. You put it out there, people attended, they came to the cafe, they tuned in online, you engaged with your audience right there for that hour, and it was wonderful. But now you have this asset, what to do with it now, going forward. So briefly, I'm just going to introduce myself to anyone who has not met me before. I manage the Teen Science Cafe and the Teen Newsroom programs here at the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences. As RJ mentioned, I specialize in science communication education. A little bit about our institution, for those who are not familiar with it yet. The North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences is made up of several buildings, in fact, that are really outfitted for digital engagement. So we are very, very lucky to have brand new facilities, a lot of really wonderful stuff, dedicated digital media staff that help us to really push out our digital engagement across the country. So Teen Science Cafe is here. We have a dedicated space called the Daily Planet Cafe, where we host our presentations. This is one of our speakers who was talking about wearable harness technology that allows dogs to communicate with their handlers. It was really great. If you'd like to watch it, we have that archived on our site, and I'll give you guys that link later. So in the cafe space, we also have televisions for people who may be sitting in the back, but also everything that is broadcast on those TVs is what we are able to share in that moment on Facebook Live or via live stream using our broadcast suite. The behind the scenes of that, we've got a full digital media studio. We can do live broadcasts. Again, we record all of our live broadcasts, stream throughout the museum, and then we can link those into YouTube, Facebook, and live stream. So that's what we're working with here at the museum. So now let's get into what kind of digital content are out there. What can you do? We talked mostly last webinar about using live stream technology. I'm assuming that everybody who's tuned in is probably familiar with that, where you're hosting an event, you are recording it, you're broadcasting, and it's going out to the masses. So live broadcasts of Teen Science Cafes. Again, the recordings of this broadcast. It's really great to use something like Livestream or Facebook Live that is going to archive those live events for you, because a lot of the social media technology that's out there is really interested in the stories, if you guys have heard about them, Instagram stories, Snapchat stories. There's this push for content that is put out but then quickly goes away within 24 hours. While that's exciting and that's definitely a trend we're seeing, I think that for Teen Science Cafes, things that could be best utilized would be those recorded broadcasts, so that we can really give longevity to our content. RJ also mentioned in the last webinar that student-produced videos, if you're not yet doing full broadcasts of your event, full recordings of your event, just some highlight reels, maybe a speaker spotlight, having your team leaders produce that kind of content, that's definitely something that you can also put out to engage your online audiences in a similar way than just putting out the cafe recording. Short Facebook Live videos. If you don't want to commit to doing a full hour-long cafe broadcast, maybe highlighting some interesting activity or experiment or, something that's real jazzy that you know is going to be coming up on that presentation. So with that in mind, I would like to give a shout out to Vicki DeMuzio, who is at the Teen Science Cafe in Whiteville, North Carolina, who, after our first webinar, took a stab at doing a live broadcast, and there it is, and put it up on Facebook Live. So well done, Vicki. That's great. And I really enjoyed this second part that she did. It was about, a minute long, and you probably can't really see it, but you can go to Facebook and check it out now because it's not going away. And you can see an experiment that their speaker did using crystals, magnets, and liquid nitrogen. I thought was really great. So bravo, Vicki. So on that note, let's talk about what makes good shareable content. We just talked about a lot of different content types. So what is something that is, good to put out there, good to share, is going to, promote your program or your institution? So good video quality is obviously important. You don't want to throw up a video that is heavily pixelated, has jumpy audio, something that people are just, something that's just rocking around. You feel like you're on a boat watching it. People are probably going to tune out pretty quickly if that video quality isn't, something that's watchable. That doesn't mean necessarily that it needs to be overproduced. You can have an excellent video recorded on your cell phone. You don't have to have a full digital media studio to accomplish these outputs. The things that I do recommend that it is are steady. Again, not handheld. You don't want to give anybody motion sickness while they're watching your event. That's the surest way to tune them out. And good audio. If they can't hear it, audio is very, very, very important to video technology. But I think that the most important thing is that it needs to be good content. What you're sharing needs to be something that people are going to watch again, that people will engage with, that people are going to want to stick around, that's going to really promote what you are doing. So let's talk a little bit about sharing your content. We're talking about content maybe you've already produced, or we'll talk a little bit also about the content. We're going to talk about content that has already been produced that we're sharing right now. So I think it's valuable to have a reliable, well-organized video sharing website. What I have up here right now is Livestream. Many of you are probably familiar with this from the last webinar. It's got a wonderful interface. It's really easy to see all of the videos that have been produced. It's very user-friendly, and it's also friendly for you in order to grab that content and to redistribute it. You can take the link, you can put it on social media. You don't have to go digging through your old Facebook logs to find it. Facebook, obviously you can go to the video tab and see them there. But there's things like this that are also valuable. Other examples would be YouTube. We post most of our stuff to Livestream, Facebook, and YouTube here at the museum, just so that we can really spread a wide net and catch as many audiences as we can. Vimeo is another example that you may be familiar with. So when you're sharing your content on social media, again, it's important to think about what that platform looks like when videos are shared to Facebook. If that's the social media platform that you're going to be using most to get that out there. If you're using Facebook Live, obviously, as you're scrolling through your feed, you're going to see live video in action that's going to be playing. Even if it's after the event, as soon as it's scrolled past, it's going to automatically start that video, and your users are going to see something happening. If you're using Vimeo, YouTube, or Livestream, you're just going to see like a frame grab, if you will, from that video and a play button. So you'll know it's a video, but it's not going to automatically register somebody's view as they're scrolling through. That's an integrated Facebook feature that I quite enjoy. The other very, very important thing when you are either distributing your content for the first time or if you are sharing that content a second time is make sure you let your audience know what they're watching. Facebook defaults to saying NCMN, for example, Teen Science Cafe is live. That doesn't give your viewer a whole lot of information. If you're just sharing a link to content that you've already created, it will just have the title of that link. Again, that's not exactly enough information to register a click or to engage your viewer to stay with you and actually view your content. So make sure that you're giving your audience as much information as possible without, obviously putting, an entire manual there on Facebook. So here's an example of what we usually do. This is a live broadcast. So what usually comes up is Teen Science Cafe is live. So what I do is I edit it. I already have a canned paragraph of content that I just copy and paste right into that. I'm not doing it on the fly because I don't want people, I don't want to lose people that are tuning in for that very first couple minutes. So I say, this is the cafe that we are watching or have recorded. This can work either way for content that is happening now or content you've already done. The title, let us know who's talking, what we're going to be learning about, and we have activity sheets that we disseminate on our website so that if people are watching our cafes in post or if they're tuning in at the time of the event, that they can actually download that activity sheet and follow along with us, which is really great for teachers who may not be able to get their kids into the classroom or into the cafe event. They can do this in the classroom. They can have a hands-on activity and actually have this as a class period activity. So you can see that link is right there. Also, I included this just to show you again what it looks like, the difference between sharing on Facebook Live versus sharing on another platform site like Vimeo, YouTube, or Livestream. You're just going to have that playhead there and a stock image or a pulled image from that site. This is when we had some technical difficulties during our live stream. Again, it's very important to have that canned and ready to go so that if something is going to happen on Facebook Live, that you always have a backup plan. And we talked about that a lot in the first webinar, so I would encourage you guys to go back and look at that to refresh yourselves or maybe to think about that again if you're just tuning in for the first time. So now let's get into what this webinar is really all about. This webinar is about what to do with your content once you have it. The most important thing is to give your content longevity. You have just invested some time, maybe some staff time, staff resources to get this content out to your audience. Why not use it again instead of letting it just die a slow and very painful death, just seeing it once. Let's keep using it. Let's think of ways that we can give the most bang for our buck for that content. So that content is only as good as your social media strategy. Yes, you have this output, but if you don't put it back out there, nobody's ever going to see it and it's not going to be doing a job for you. You want your content to work for you. So reshare video content regularly. That's a thing. Our cafes are a month apart, so that's a lot of time to be engaging with your audience, taking them back to cafes that happened in the past, reminding them of something cool. And I particularly like to do it during current events. There's so much science in the news. People are always hearing about really cool topics, and oftentimes it relates back to something we've already talked about in a science cafe. So here's an example of this. This is actually, all of our social media is run by our team leadership, so bravo to them. They really impressed me, and this is one of their examples. It was October of last year, we had a Teen Science Cafe about nanomaterials. Mega Importance was the title. And very recently, researchers came out with a new project about translating strength into 3D forms, and it had to do with graphene, which was a material that was heavily discussed in our October cafe. So our students did a Throwback Thursday here on January 26th. So this is months and months later that we are flashing our audience back to that other cafe. Maybe they missed it, maybe they wanted to see more, but we're relating our content that we've already produced in the past to new and current events, thereby getting more people to rewatch our content or reminding them of how awesome we are and how relevant our topics are. So when we do the in science in the news, I always like to have them include a link back to the video that was already produced, so people, can read about that new science and then go back and maybe refamiliarize themselves with the content, or even watch it for the first time if it was something that they had originally missed. So again, tie to current events and encourage viewers to rewatch your content. So let's talk a little bit about ideas for content sharing. This is mostly talking about, what your content can do for you and your institution. But let's talk about promoting this in other groups. How can our content work for other groups, for someone else? So give your audience some ideas of what to do with your content. Definitely sharing it with teachers. I mentioned that just a few minutes ago in offering it as a classroom teaching tool. Many times our content and our events align with the curriculums that are going on in high schools. And teachers can incorporate this into their lesson planning. We have an activity, it's exciting and it's engaging, and it can really be used as an asset in the classroom. And we have a lot of teachers that actually do reach out to us that ask for the activities in advance so that they can be doing this, with their groups. You can encourage people to have their own watch parties. This can be either during the cafe event or later on. I believe I mentioned in the last webinar that we had a terrible snowstorm and people weren't able to get to our site, so they were having watch parties with pizza while they were snowed in at their own houses. That's something that can be done, again, in post. You have video content that's not going away. People can take that and watch it at their own leisure, get together and say, hey, we couldn't make it, we couldn't tune in, to your event at that time, but we can do it again later and have fun with it on our schedules. We definitely have outside groups who do get together and have their own watch parties. Oftentimes it is people that maybe live a little too far from the museum but still want to have that cafe experience. So what we're really trying to do is make the video content as much like an in-person experience as we can. And I think we're seeing a lot of people really grabbing onto that concept and just running with it and doing things on their own. Two actually of our teen leaders here at the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences actually started cafes at their own school. Many times they're inviting their own speakers, but they're also able to take advantage of content that already exists. You guys probably have some really amazing teens in your groups that are just going above and beyond, and we didn't even think of this. This was their idea. They were like, you guys have this video, why, can we use it? Can we share this with our friends? Can we get our groups together? And we were like, yes, that's awesome. That's a really great idea. So I'm sure you guys can identify with probably the teams that you've got that are just really ready to take it and run with it. So if you build it, they will run far and away with it. And then also here at the museum, we are experimenting with doing off-site cafe replays. So it's not somebody taking our content and using it. It is us using our content again in a new and different place. And this is really important in reaching groups that maybe are not able to, one, come to the museum or get together outside the museum without a little bit of encouragement. So I'm going to talk about this. It's called Fathers Forever program. So our cafe replays, you can see it here. This is not our cafe space. You can see it looks a little bit different. There's not a stage. There's not the tables and TVs. This is another nonprofit institution that's just down the road from the museum. So 2 weeks after our live cafes, we host these replays again where you can see maybe see on that television screen that we are actually showing our video content again in this room with this new audience that we were not reaching on the day of the cafe. Our cafe coordinators, that's what our team leaders are called. You can see them in the purple shirts in this picture. They come with us. They are represented at these events, and we love that they're so engaged that even after their commitments at the museum, the meetings, the cafes, they still want to come out and be part of this new offsite program. So we watch the replay, and then we actually do the activity on site. We bring all of our materials with us again and do it again with this audience. Here you can see one of our cafe coordinators, Valerie, doing a Coke's postulate with one of our participants, and we are actually on those Petri plates. We're putting our fingers in it to see what microbes we can grow, and that's a really, really cool experiment. And if you have that recorded content, you can take it with you with your activities and do it again. It doesn't have to. It's not a one and done thing. You can keep it going for as many times as you are able to as an institution. So here's another one. These kids, I really like this kiddo in the back, and you can see that the age does skew a little bit younger with this particular group, but we're still reaching, some of our target teens. But everybody just looks really excited. They're right now watching the video, and this is the reaction on their face, seeing our presenter on screen talking about microbes and pathologies. Just, wow, so exciting. So why is it important to do things like having content that can be disseminated by other groups, or having content that you as an institution can reuse and repurpose and produce again? So Fathers Forever is my example that I'm going to use. They are a nonprofit that aims to get fathers more involved with their children. It's a tough to reach population in East Raleigh. So the museum and the Fathers Forever group are about a mile apart. But in our evaluations of our cafe audience, we noticed that we were missing a lot of representation from the neighborhoods directly around the museum. Generally minority and low-income populations here within walking distance to the museum. So we talked about it. We've talked to people in that neighborhood. We've done evaluations, and we were realizing that the people that we were missing out on, it wasn't a geographical barrier that was preventing them from coming to the museum, that it was a cultural one. Their peers may not have been coming. Their parents may not have been pushing extracurricular science education activities out on them. So what we wanted to do was go to them. We want to really get our content out to as many people as possible. So it encourages people, once you get out there and you're in the cafe space, you're talking to these new Fathers Forever groups, it comes back to us in that people feel like they are able to come into the museum. They've made friendships, with us, with the other people that attended the cafe replay. And it's really, we're seeing just a full circle of introductions. They're telling their friends. We're seeing new people come. And it's really been very successful so far. This is the first year that we've implemented this particular program. And we are looking forward to getting our evaluation results back from that at the end of the year. So encourage your community to use what you have. Give it to them and give it to them freely. And it's exciting to see what people are coming up with. So now I thought, why don't I stop talking, and maybe you guys have some better ideas of how you can use your digital content. There's probably something I haven't thought of that maybe you've thought of, maybe your team leaders have thought of. So I'm going to turn it over to RJ, to the chat box, and maybe the phones. I'm not sure how you want to do it, but let's see what you guys are thinking about.
Yeah, the chat box is open, and if you want to go ahead and pipe in using your microphones, you could unmute yourself right now. So yeah, if we have any ideas or stuff like that, we could pipe in right now.
Or if anybody would like any clarification on something that I've said. Everybody typing yet?
We were still waiting on a few people. So this Fathers Forever program sounds pretty incredible, and it's a great way to reach underserved audiences, one, and two, for your different organizations to have representation in an area that they were missing. So this is really great. How you said it's working out good so far, but how long have you guys been working on this?
So we implemented this program at the beginning of the 2016 school year. So we started in October, and we have done a cafe each month. It's on third Fridays of the month. So we've done October, November, December, January. So we've had 4 so far, and we've got 4 more until the end of the year. So we're about halfway through.
Excellent. And you mentioned earlier tying your content that you've recorded back to current events. So that's a really great idea too. How do you do that? Like, if you see something in the news, you just put up a link to your stuff, or how does it work with you guys?
Absolutely. That's a really great question, RJ. So I do think that in sharing the news, sharing current events, the most important thing to share is the current event. I personally like to link out to that content. In Facebook, if you guys have used Facebook, the first link that you include in a post is the one that is going to activate that image box or the video box or the news box that shows the screen grab, if you will, of the content that you're trying to share. And then after sharing that, I put in a link to our pieces of content. So I'm saying, hey, this is a cool thing that's happening in the news. You guys should check it out, but also don't forget, we talked about this once. If you want to take a gander, come back and see us. And we are seeing in our metrics of that people are clicking back onto our content after that kind of reminder has been shared.
Katie asks, do you stream to multiple sharing platforms simultaneously, or do you just focus on one?
Great question, Katie. Thank you. So we stream to 2 platforms simultaneously. We use Livestream, and we go to Facebook Live. So we can patch into our live stream and then get that feed into Facebook. And we do that so that we always have a backup. I actually have one of our technical guys here, Matt, who's here. Maybe, do you have anything that you want to add to that? No, he's shaking his head. He's like, yeah, that's good. So it's basically, it's great to have a backup. And it's also great because you can share those items differently. Like I said, to find a Facebook video again, you can scroll all the way down through the feed. You can click on the videos tab and scroll through theirs. But Livestream is a really nice, clean interface that is easily accessible, and you can just grab those and go. And it's basically just an archived box of all your video, whereas Facebook is an archived box of everything that you've put out on social media before. So those are the 2 that we use. Does
Livestream work like YouTube, where it's a free place to upload your videos or stream live? Or do you know if there's a cost?
I believe that it's a membership, like Vimeo is. I believe it's probably small for an institution, but I do not have that. I think we're going to go ahead and look that up for you. But YouTube is another great example of a place to store your content.
Yeah, and here at the network, that's what we use. Is we use a lot of YouTube, so you can find all of our webinars, all of our open mics on YouTube. Another question: is there anything such as sharing your content too much? Like you put it out there and then you put it out there again, but can you overshare your own content?
I think that using your own discretion on that is, use it where it's appropriate. You don't want to every hour, say, hey, don't forget about this. Hey, don't forget about that. Because you're just going to distract whoever is, that's being popped up in your feed. You don't want to tell them about 4 different cafes that happened over the span of 3 years and really send everybody's brains in different places. So a social media strategy, it's great to share, and it's great to share often, but imagine yourself receiving all of those updates, those posts, and really think about it that way. If you want to focus on something specifically, choose that to focus on before you move on to something else.
Okay. the chat box is open, so if you have any questions, you can
I'll
hit
go
us
ahead
up here
and
on the chat box.
Vicky,
Vicky says, you mentioned YouTube. How do you do that? Must you develop a page and then just put up the Facebook link of the live video after the cafe? Basically, how do you use the YouTube? How do you use YouTube, not the YouTube?
How do you use YouTube? Well, YouTube is a place where you can upload recorded video content. So you would have had to record the video and then you upload that file into YouTube. I think you could probably Google the best way to use YouTube for your institution. It really depends on how you're recording it and where to put that content.
And Katie has a follow-up question. Do you interact with your viewers during the live programming?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm going to actually scroll back through my PowerPoint real quick, and Matt's going to switch that over just so that I can show you. Well, let me just get, there we go. Okay, so if you can see this post, this was me sharing on, you can actually see me sitting there at that table. Myself and one of our cafe coordinators are sitting there manning any questions that are coming into Facebook or live stream from our audience. So if you see at the second paragraph, it says, for you tuning in, here's the activity sheet. We will be taking questions during Q&A, so please post yours in the comments. And we have had really good success with that so far. We definitely had people typing in their comments as the live broadcast is going, so that I can, or the cafe coordinator can, look over at the speaker and be like, hey, we've got a question from Katie in Wisconsin who wants to know, what about this topic? So definitely you can absolutely engage with your online viewers during live programming.
Excellent. Do you or Matt have any suggestions for editing programs, for like post-recording programs? I know here at the network we use iMovie, which we have mostly Macs, so iMovie comes free. We use that a lot with the GarageBand to help us with our audio. So I don't know if you guys had any suggestions.
That would be the one that I would suggest, especially for if you're on a budget. If you're using Macs, that is a program that is already easily available to you. Matt, do you have any other suggestions over there?
In our media production shop, we subscribe to the Adobe Creative Cloud, but we obviously use it for a lot more than just the Teen Science Cafe, so for us it's a worthwhile investment. But depending on how much video content you're producing, that'll be able to make that decision whether it's worth the, I think it's like $30, $40 a month, maybe it might be even $50 a month for the subscription service.
Thanks, Matt. And can you help us with a few ideas of other underserved programs that might be in our different communities? This Fathers Forever program is great, but I can't really. I'm trying to think of in maybe a rural areas a different program that might benefit from having these cafe recaps.
I think that it got a little jumpy, RJ, and I missed the start of that question. Would you be able to?
Yeah, I can ask that again. With the Fathers Forever program, I think I said that right. It's a great underserved program that's you guys are reaching out to. Do you have any suggestions, maybe ideas for us around the country of programs that might be in our area or where we could start looking to try to reutilize and reach out to a group that's underserved?
Absolutely. Boys and girls clubs, YMCAs, teen groups, anything like that. There are already nonprofits and community centers that are focusing on these communities. That is, just a short list of the people that I have tried to reach out to try to establish connections with. Schools, magnet schools, regular, any school. Really, you probably all know your areas best. So, look for the people that are already reaching that population, and you can get in touch with the coordinators at those institutions to try to develop a partnership. And that's really the way that we've done that.
Excellent. And we still have open chat. If you'd like to ask a question, or even if you'd like to turn your microphone on and ask a question, you can do that now. I'd like to say we had a cafe here last week in Los Alamos, New Mexico, the Cafe Scientifique. It was on astrophysics, and two of my teens got together and decided to do a Facebook Live. So we had our first broadcast of a cafe. It didn't go as well as we had hoped. Our camera that we had connected to the computer for some reason wasn't connecting with the program we were trying to use to upload. So we ended up using a webcam from the computer, but the audio came across pretty great, and the video quality was up there. So it's great to just try it out, even if your first one isn't so successful. Just try it out, see what you could get through.
Absolutely, I definitely encourage that. Practice is going to make perfect, and you're going to figure out what works best for you, with your technology that you have there at your institution. And it's not going to be bad. So just put it out there and give it a go.
Yeah, it's pretty great. If we don't have any more questions, we could wrap up today's webinar. I want to thank you again, Kathryn and Matt, for joining us today and for your presenting to us today.
Yeah, very happy to be here. And as we leave, I'll go ahead and just throw up my contact information and contact information I'm scrolling through my PowerPoint for Matt as well, if you guys have any questions and you'd like to get in touch with us. There's my email. Again, you can watch all of our recorded content, see if it's something that you would like to share, use it as a model. I am happy to field any questions. Basically, take this and use it how you want to. I am okay with it. So our live stream link is there. That has 5 years of recorded content on it. So please use it as you will. Our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagrams are also listed on here, as well as my email, and Matt, who is our digital media specialist, his email is there as well. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. It was great to meet you all again and see you all again.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for joining us. To everyone who joined us today, we will get a recording of today's webinar up on our website, teensciencecafe.org. Under the resources tab, we'll also have it on our social media pages and YouTube, so you can find us on YouTube. Just want to give you a quick heads up. Make plans to join us on March 1st at 11 a.m. Mountain. That's 1 Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. Our next webinar will be on building partnerships. We have some great speakers from around the country who will be joining us. March 1st, 11 a.m. Mountain Time, 1 Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. And thanks again to everyone who joined us. We do this for you, so we thank you for taking time out of your day. And a very special thank you to Matt and Kathryn again at the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences. And with that, we bid you a good day.